Hello and welcome to a new episode of the CTO Show with Mehmet. My name is Mehmet, and as you know, in each episode, I cover different topics from emerging technologies. I talk also about startups and entrepreneurship. And as you know by now, in some episodes, I have guests with me, and today I have two guests instead of one. I have April and Colton from DigiBuild, and I'm sure like we will have a very great discussion. So, April, Colton, thank you very much for being with us today. If you can just introduce yourself and you can introduce DigiBuild also as well.
You bet. So I'll
April, we'll
just
start
start.
from you.
Yep, I am the chief customer officer at DigiBuild, and I'm also one of the co-founders. And my background was I spent 21 years with Procter and Gamble in various product supplies, logistics, sales roles. Worked for Starbucks, some other top 500 CPG companies through a brokerage. And my story of how I came to DigiBuild is that Rob, the CEO, used to work for me, and he grew up in construction. And after I decided that I wanted to try something different for a career after 24 years in CPG. He invited me over to co-found the company. My father was in construction and I did a little bit of real estate, so it's always enticed me. And obviously, at the heart, I've always liked new business development, so it seemed like the right fit to jump over and start a new company.
That's great. Colton?
Yeah, thanks for having us. I'm Colton. I'm the solutions manager here at DigiBuild. I also come from a construction and a software background. So, lately I've been fusing the two to work in the construction tech space like I do now. My job here at DigiBuild involves listening to both prospective and existing clients, understanding what their current procurement operations and what their pain points are, and working to tailor a solution to help them out and to streamline their procurement and save them money and produce efficiencies for them. So, thanks for having us, and look forward to talking.
Yeah, same here. Now, the first question, and for both of you, when we talk about emerging technologies, like I was talking to you, Colton, previously, like people think about fintech, health tech, all these, I would say, hot subjects. But in construction, we rarely, hear this. And people have, this, I would say, assumption that, okay, what can we do kind of real cool technology with construction? So, what you can tell us about this, I would say, subsidiary of the emerging techs?
Yeah, absolutely. I can take this one, April, if you want.
Yeah, that'd be
So
great.
I think like what we spoke about earlier, construction's a little different. It's one of the last industries to sort of adopt emerging and disruptive technologies. But what we've seen, especially during this COVID period, is the pain points that have always faced us in construction sort of escalate to a new high level. And that has opened the door and opened the sort of willingness for players within the field to leverage things like blockchain, AI, IoT devices, robotics, things of that sort. So unlike some of the other verticals that you spoke about, construction, we're building the real world stuff, but we're building the things that all of the other industries are housed within. So yeah, think that's sort of why it's new. You don't hear about contact as much as you've heard about fintech and health tech, but I think that'll change in the years to come, and I think the COVID has really driven us in that direction.
We can
That
even tell just from, some of the events that Colton and I have, went and spoke at with different build expos, and even just our last one we did a few weeks ago in Tampa, we definitely feel the room and the vibe. I mean, it's packed out now. Before we'd get 2 or 3 or 4 people interested, and, the rooms were just packed. So we really feel like there's a different trend happening within the industry, and really excited to see that finally after multiple years of just trying to sell the concept of, technology.
so you both mentioned COVID. Like I worked, as I was telling Colton as well, I worked myself as a consultant for, and everyone was talking about the digital transformation. And, when COVID came, there was this famous meme
Mhm.
showing that who accelerated digital transformation. And it was like three options, and COVID was the one of them. So have you seen, COVID pushed construction companies to really adopt the technology and get this adoption of the technology faster? How did you analyze this, and what's your point of view on this?
I would say absolutely. I would say prior to COVID, you have, construction companies that are doing things the same way they've done them for a long time. And, there were some pain points, but I think what they found prior to COVID is that the amount of resources to spend to implement 2
Mhm.
new technologies didn't have a great enough return, versus, just using those resources to do what they're consistently doing. I think COVID changed that, right? I think, the old models of doing things were disrupted tremendously during COVID, and the benefits of it, del you know, allocating resources towards new technologies and implementing those changes were so much more beneficial than they were prior to COVID. So that's anywhere from, distributed work environments to, dealing with like what we do here at DigiBuild and, dealing with the broken supply chain issues that arose out of COVID. So there's a lot of different ways in which that's happening, but I would say absolutely that's the case.
Yeah. And I guess the other thing I'd add to that is the labor shortage within the
Mhm.
industry, right? There's not as second, third generations interested in construction. There's a lot of people that are getting into the trades, but it is definitely a shortage of labor. So there's, how do you build capacity for project managers or procurement managers within these industries? It's just giving them time back so they can go find more work, um, you know, projects for the company, so I think that was another factor in it, and that came out of COVID as well.
Okay, that's good insight. Now, let's deep dive a little bit in the whole concept. So when we talk, for example, in general about fintech, so we remove the friction of how we can get payments done, right? When we talk about health tech, it's all about the experience of the patient and how they can get better medical care. So in the construction, when we talk about construction tech or digitizing the construction, what are the main benefits and what are the main directions, I would say, when it comes to construction?
Yeah. Well, I would say it's still to reduce friction in certain aspects, but let's just look at a couple verticals, right? Or a couple different avenues. It's to help collaboration, right? With collaboration, a construction project, unlike most projects, especially when you get into larger construction, you're talking hundreds of hundreds of people, and tens of thousands of moving parts on a particular project, right? So to solve that coordination problem and allow those projects to be managed more efficiently, that's where you see project management softwares and things of that sort come into fruition, right? Um, we're our piece on the procurement side, where we're helping builders and contractors and developers expand their pool of suppliers. So right now, most people in the industry, because of time restraints, they reach out to 2 to 3 suppliers to get a quote for materials. With supply chain issues, a lot of times those suppliers don't have what they need in stock, and if they do, the prices are a lot higher than they'd expect. What we're able to do is allow them to expand their pool of suppliers using AI to get back, to basically expand who they can get materials from, so they don't run into as many issues of some of those materials not being available and those prices being, uncharacteristically high. If you go down the line, there's a lot of risk management, a lot of safety concerns that are on every job site, and there's technology solving those issues. There's a lot of, ability to learn from existing projects. So there's a lot of digital twin sort of technologies where you can learn from an existing project by digitizing that project and actually collecting, data to have insights. And so that in the future you can improve that process. A lot of things that didn't exist 5 years ago that are now coming to fruition. So
Yeah, one of the things that we're also doing is driving the sustainability within our database, right? So right now, we're the largest global database of suppliers, but identifying the sustainable suppliers is really going to help the industry and also help with the impact on the environment. So we're really proud of that. So pulling those two pieces together, people don't think about technology when they think about supply chain management, but definitely finding supplies and materials that are sustainable and being able to find them and be able to, offer substitutions for products and stuff globally, I think is a really big idea as well.
Yeah, that makes sense because I believe one of the biggest challenges that happened, I mean, in every different vertical was the supply chain. Everyone was talking about the supply chain, especially during COVID. Now, of course, when we talk about digitization, we talk about data, right? So,
mhm.
how do you think companies, in your field, should have a better adoption, not only for making everything digital, but also using like technologies like data analytics, like AI, like so they can have better outcomes.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, there's the predictive part of data, right? So if you utilize data and AI technologies to forecast things, like one of the things that we do, we're able to collect lead time data on different materials, and we're able to push those lead time data insights against a company's project schedule, and that way the project manager on that schedule knows when they need to order those material buys to prevent scheduling misses. So that's a sort of a small use case of where we're using data to basically prevent scheduling misses, which cause $170 billion worth of loss just in the United States a year on construction projects, right? Um, so I mean that's our use case for that, but I think across the board, it's all about creating efficiencies and more productivity out of a restricted labor pool. Just because, like I said,
Mhm.
there's huge labor shortages in the construction space. There's been a culture for decades against having your children go and learn a trade as opposed to go to college. And right now, technology is trying to, move that pendulum back the other way or solve for that problem.
Yeah. You mentioned something few minutes ago about safety. Can you
Mhm.
little bit, tell us more how, you can help in reducing the risks and, increase the safety at construction sites? I'm curious about this actually.
Yeah, there's a lot of wearable device technologies that are going to track, vital metrics and things of that sort. There's smart glasses and hard hats that that do things of that sort as well. You can also, they have drone companies that'll fly over that are, unaired sort of, you know, AI drones that'll fly over a job site and determine if there's any risk of materials movement, earth movement, anything falling down. I mean, there's so many different applications. I think the most interesting one though is the wearable devices on the job set. So there were monitoring different heart rate metrics and things of that sort. Because you'd be surprised how many people are hospitalized a year on these big heat exhaustion and things of that sort. So,
Yeah, I think it's also like a global problem. We
mhm.
always hear about issues in construction sites and so on. Now, moving like a little bit, if I want you to think, what would be the big, breakthroughs in your field in the coming, let's say, I'm not asking anymore 10 years. I'm asking 2, 3 years because things are changing so fast.
Yeah. You wanna take this one, April? You want me to hop
Sure.
in? Yeah.
Um, yeah, I mean, for us, it's like being able to utilize AI, machine learning to understand how, like, let's take sustainability, for example. I think that the rate of how AI is being used could help with the substitution of materials, right? So, hey, currently today I'm using this type of material and I need to be able to, I'd love to switch it out for something sustainable, but the application for a lot of the sustainable products and how they're utilized are different and how they're tested is different on the job site. So I really feel like this could be a breakthrough for sustainability and getting more people to adopt it, and then getting more people actually in the field to actually create sustainable products to manufacture them. So I think that's for me. I got a lot of passion behind that, and I feel like that's a really big area that AI can help with.
Yep. And I would say that, one of the things, and I know April, we've heard this a lot, at our panel discussions is the ability for AI to take a plan set and let you know how much materials and what materials you
Mm,
need just from that plan set without much or any human intervention. Um, and I think that does a lot of things that frees up a lot of time to pursue the things that April was just talking about, and to
mhm,
just not have that stop point with it, especially as the projects get more complex. That
mhm.
just there's a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks to where those that part of the project is happening and holding everything else up. So
Yeah, and then finding, to that point, just even finding materials, like if there is a delay, which
mhm.
there's always a delay, in the project, is there another material supplier out there that could get the product there sooner and faster, right? So being able to use that to search, different places, and where this becomes real incredibly important, it's just not about the money and the time, but if you think about in the medical field, right? A friend of mine was telling me about some use case where they had a device that was the only patch for helping with a certain type of brain cancer, and there was a missing something was wrong with the weld, and they had to tear out a piece, and they couldn't get a product. So to be able to find because of the lead time, I mean, people's lives in that case were on the line, right? So that's some of the other areas where you think about how AI can help.
Yeah, that's very informative. Now, one thing, and I think it's not only in in construction, it's everywhere because I faced it. People, when they do digital transformation or digitization, um, I think they don't get it right sometimes. And I had some guests and we discussed this, but I'm interested to, know from you what are, some of the consumption, or like, I would say what goes wrong when a company say, hey, I want to start this journey, and actually but they end up by having a failure. So what do you
Oh, yeah.
have to say about this, and how we can overcome these misconceptions?
Yeah, I have a lot of thoughts on this, so I will take this one. I think a lot of companies, especially in the construction space, but across the board, they hear the buzzwords and the new big shiny technologies, and they want to make sure they're not left behind, and so that they chase that sort of the buzzwords, the shiny objects that are new technologies, instead of identifying what is their pain point, what is the highest priority pain point for them to solve. So they they implement technology based on what it could do and not based on what they need, right?
Mhm.
So I think that is really where things go wrong because they like a talking point as opposed to solving a problem.
That's I have to agree with you, Colton, and this is not only in construction. This is something we see across all verticals, and I witnessed companies in different sectors that they have spent not hundreds of thousands. They spent literally millions of dollars, on what they call a digital transformation, and they ended up by having nothing at the end. So yeah, it's a very valid point. Now, I'm interested to understand from you both. Like, I'm sure, like you have worked with a lot of customers, and you've done like quite some good job over there. But people always love to hear the story, right? So, and love to visualize from where you took them, what were their, I would say, status quo, and where have they been now being fully transformed and digitized.
Absolutely. So I would, you want to take this one, April? Or?
Yeah, well, I just think of one experience that we had with the customer that was first they didn't believe that our software actually could do what it did, right? Because they've got 4 or 5 people dedicated to do what our software does and can eliminate all those positions from a standpoint the actual work and tasks that those roles do versus going out and finding new business. And this happens over and over again with project managers. They'll come over to our booth at an event and they'll want to talk to us. And so we start telling them, "No, no, you do wanna talk to us, and this is why," and they're like, "Alright, tell me more," and their eyes are rolling, and by the time they're done, they're like, "Let me sign up. When can we get a demo?" And they still don't believe it until you actually get a demo and show them how it works. So for me, that's really exciting because the adoption, in technology and construction, like we've talked about, is very slow, but when you're actually filling in a need, and almost a relief to people and seeing their faces change, to me, that's very powerful. So that's exciting that we're really doing something that's changing people's day to day, everyday lives. And I love that about what we're doing.
Yeah, and we're seeing, developers and builders, want to take that leap into, take on larger projects, but with the labor shortages and not being
Mhm.
sure if they have the resources to do that, get and use our project, and now they have the confidence that, hey, like, DigiBuild software is my procurement team, basically. Now I can take on this. I can go from taking on $5 million projects to $25 million projects. We're seeing that in real time. Another sort of satisfying thing that we run into is talking with people who have been in a niche within the construction industry for 25, 30 years. And They say, "Why would I use their software? There's only 2 or 3 people who supply this product. I know, I've done this for 25 years." And they're very stubborn about it, and, we can have our software run a query and show them that actually there's 15 people that supply it or 25 people that supply it. We just had this, with somebody building, like, an amusement park, and they needed a 28-foot US-made horse carousel, the horse ride that goes around.
Yeah,
And they said they'd spent so much time on it. There's only 2 of them in the entire country that sold it, but we provided a list of 17, US-based manufacturers within a couple minutes to them. And so it's interesting to see people kinda get out of their bubble and now they're curious, right? They were set in a mindset that was
Mhm.
not real or that was limited, and now we kinda cracked that lid open. So I think that's an exciting part of our job.
I have to agree with you 100%. Being a consultant myself, like the best moment I live is when I take the customer from, you know, sometimes they even don't know they have the pain point, and then you tell them, "No, you have a pain here," and then you take them, to heaven, from hell to heaven, I can say. And this is the best moment because the customer comes and, he or she thanks you, and they say, like, "You saved my life," or "You
Yeah.
you are showing me like as a hero now in front of my management." I want to shift little bit gears and go out from the technology, and maybe April, this is more for you. Like, you work with big companies like Procter and Gamble, Starbucks, and many others, and now you are in, by your own. You're an entrepreneur. How you describe this change from going like corporate to be, on something that you build yourself, and also what you can tell others who are thinking to take this path.
Yeah, I would say if you're thinking about it, um, I think you have to look deep. It is definitely tough. Like so, at Procter and Gamble, my nickname was Bulldog because it wasn't a project that I wouldn't take on and try to make sure we executed it well and deliver what it was. So I've always loved new business development. Always was attracted to that within any company. Starting, I think I've started like 17 to 20 sales teams of across all multiple industries within CPG. Loved every bit of it. So, what I wanted to do, I've always had that entrepreneur heart. It started, my aunt, believe it or not, when I was a little girl, she had this little country cafe where she also had like a meat department and she sold soup. And she was actually the first female butcher in Michigan, if you can believe that. But anyway, she really
Cool.
got me excited about business. She'd give me her green bar paper. If anybody's listening understands what green bar paper is, I'd have to Google it. But I would take it back to my home and I would pretend like I had my own little cafe, my own little business going. And so just that desire to that entrepreneurial spirit is actually my family. I'm almost all my aunts and uncles and cousins. They all have some type of business on their own. So it's kind of been something in, generationally that I feel that has been given to me as a gift, that I've loved, so that's always enticed me. I think the biggest challenge was how do you take all those skill sets that you've learned and all that knowledge that these great companies had taught you and brought you through and reapply it to a startup? And I think it really starts with your core, and the thing that really changed my life was, just understanding myself. If you think about emotional intelligence, that whole entire process emotional intelligence that came out in the late, early 90s, I think it was. The first piece to that is really that self-awareness. And I took that, I've done Briggs and Meyer and done a lot of them, but I think the one that impacted me the most, these little tests that you take was strength finders. Because what that showed me was it really focused on not what I wasn't doing well, but what I could do well and really taking that to the next level. So finding other people within your team and organization that would complement your strengths and that you would complement theirs, I think was really key to my success in a lot of those teams. And so could I take those same concepts, that core piece of who I am, understanding who I am, emotional intelligence, and reapply that in an entire different industry where I know nothing about software and construction, a little bit, but not much. And I just found it a great challenge and loving it. And definitely was a learning curve, still is. But I wouldn't change anything. It's absolutely has stretched my mind and you just really enjoy what I'm doing. And it's changing an industry. So I think that's the most appealing thing is that an industry that's so siloed, so alone. It's got one of the highest suicide rates of any industry, and to be able to go in and help and share, some technology or something that's going to relieve that pressure and help people to me is game changing. So I love what I did, but it really is coming back to your core, understanding what your strengths are. And that takes a little bit of honesty with yourself, right?
Mhm.
We'd like to all be perfect at something, but we're not, right? And so
Right.
taking those skills and being able to apply them where they need to be.
That's very inspiring, by the way, April, and thank you for sharing your story. Now, as we are coming to the end, what's next for DigiBuild? Like, what's
Sure.
the next big thing?
Oof.
Oh, wow. I mean,
Well, yeah.
I'll
Go
just
ahead.
stop real quick and jump in is that we've really got into some nonprofit work and
Mm,
working with this organization called Emancipate. And one of the things we found out with our sustainable suppliers is that most of them don't even promote that they're sustainable or they're doing anything. And so we've partnered with Emancipate, which use traffic women from all over the world and actually puts them through college and gives them the skill sets to do this PR, media, one pagers, all that great stuff that most people don't have time to do. So that's really exciting for us because
mhm.
it's a way for us to give back, and then also help a community at the same time. So that's one of the things that's right on our radar. We just launched last week, so you'll see a lot more of that. And it also plays into our global strategy for global suppliers. And there's a lot of sustainable global suppliers overseas.
Any plans for expansion?
Oh, everywhere.
Oh, yeah. Everywhere.
You,
We
We're
can
you,
global.
handle projects anywhere already, so
you should be here, guys. Like it's a
uh,
it's a hot
Yeah.
market here. Um, I have now a odd question I ask at the end. Uh, you both you can answer. What do you wish I asked you? Something I didn't, but you wish I asked.
that's a good question.
In another world, any
Yeah.
final thought you want to share?
Just probably for us, it's, because of what we're doing crosses over so many lives and so many pain points within construction. I think maybe a little bit more about our product so we could describe it for the audience, just because it is solving such a big product. So that would be the question I'd ask because they understand we're procurement, but they don't understand how it works. So I think that would be a key thing.
Yep, and I would sort of follow up on that. One of the things that, April and I have really enjoyed speaking with not just, prospective clients, but actually, leading these panels at like Tampa Build, is we really like just sitting down and having what we call a contractor therapy session and understanding their pain points. So, I don't know, what that says about us, but if anybody's listening to this who has some ideas about, their own pain points or somebody that knows pain points in the construction industry, and they wanna reach out to us, I highly recommend they do.
Yeah, great. By the way, what this I do with all my guests. So, your company website will be available in the episode, description. Your social media handles will be there also as well.
Awesome.
Right. So, if anyone is interested to get in touch with April or Colton, like you will find all the details about their company and what they do, so you can reach out to them. And as we are coming now to an end, and this is something I repeat over and over again, if anyone has a question to me or to my guests today, April and Colton, please don't hesitate to reach out. You will have our contacts. So for me, you know how to reach out to me by email, LinkedIn, or Twitter. And if you have feedback also, I would love to hear about it. I will try to get more of these episodes where we talk about something we never discussed before. And I think construction tech is a topic that is worth to dig more into it.
Mhm.
And if you are watching this episode for the first time, don't forget to subscribe. If you are listening on your favorite podcasting platform, also don't forget to subscribe. Tell your friends, family, colleagues. Really, we are trying to get you the best here for getting the latest trends, information, experience from people who did it the hard way so you can do it more easily. And as usual, until we meet in the next episode, take care. Bye bye.